The manila envelope hit the dining table with a heavy thud, sounding like a judge's gavel, sealing my fate. Vanessa stood there, arms crossed and eyes cold as ice, while my son, my own flesh and blood, sat beside her, wearing a stranger's smirk. "You sign this right now or you're sleeping on the street tonight." The air in the room grew so thick I could barely breathe. The fuse had been lit, and my whole world was about to explode. "Transfer everything to my wife's name, Mom, or get out." My name is Evelyn. I am 61 years old, and that night I learned that some words burn themselves into your soul and never fade, no matter how many decades pass. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, and I certainly didn't beg. I looked my son in the eye, searching for a trace of the little boy I had raised, but the lights were on and nobody was home. Vanessa took a step forward and tapped the envelope lying on the dining table, the same table where I'd served thousands of dinners, where Tyler had done his homework, where we'd celebrated his graduation. "It's simple, Evelyn," she said, using that patronizing tone she always adopted when she wanted to sound like the adult in the room. "You're getting old. You can't manage a house this size on your own." "We'll take care of it, but we need everything to be legally in order," Tyler chimed in. "For your own good." For your own good. Those words hit me like a silent slap to the face. Tyler leaned back in the recliner, the one that had belonged to his father, and turned on the TV as if nothing was happening, as if he hadn't just asked his mother to sign her own eviction notice. "Mom, don't complicate things," he said without looking at me. "You know it's for the best. Besides, what are you going to do all alone in such a big house? We live here, we maintain it, we pay the utilities." That was a lie. I paid for everything. I always had. Ever since Tyler married Vanessa 3 years ago, I had welcomed them into my home because they said they were saving for a place of their own. That's what they said. I gave them the master bedroom, I cooked their meals, I did their laundry, I opened up my entire life to them. And now, here they were, in my living room, demanding I hand over the only thing I had left, the roof under which I had built my life. Vanessa tapped the envelope again. "Sign, Evelyn, or find somewhere else to sleep tomorrow." I felt something crack inside me, but it wasn't fear, it was clarity. It's funny how tragedy clears your vision. Suddenly, you see exactly who people are. I looked around at the walls full of photos, the antique porcelain vase I'd bought on a trip to Chicago, the grandfather clock that belonged to my mother. Every object in that house had a story, and none of those stories included Vanessa. I stood up slowly. Tyler looked up for the first time. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I'm going to pack," I said calmly. Vanessa smiled, a small, victorious smirk. Good decision. I walked up the stairs, feeling their eyes boring into my back. I entered my room and closed the door. I sat on the bed and took a deep breath. I wasn't going to cry. Not yet. I opened the closet and pulled out my suitcase, the same one I'd used when my husband Robert and I traveled to the Grand Canyon years ago, back when Tyler was still small and life made sense. I packed the essentials, clothes, documents, some photos, and a small wooden box I had kept safe for years. Inside were important papers. Very important papers. I zipped the suitcase and walked back down. Vanessa and Tyler were in the kitchen laughing at something on a cell phone. They didn't even turn around when I walked past them. I opened the front door. The cool night air hit my face. "Where do you think you're going?" I heard Vanessa's voice behind me. I stopped in the doorway, but I didn't turn around. "To sleep on the street, like you said." And I walked out. I closed the door behind me and walked down the sidewalk, suitcase in hand. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I couldn't stay in that place one more night. The air smelled of damp leaves, the streetlights flickered softly, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something strange. Freedom. I walked to the corner and hailed a cab. The driver looked at me with curiosity, but didn't ask anything. "Where to, ma'am?" "Downtown," I said. "Find me a hotel." I climbed in and watched out the window as the house faded into the distance. The house that had been mine. The house where I had raised my son. The house they now thought was theirs. I smiled because I knew something they didn't. That house was still in my name, and I hadn't signed a thing. I was going back the next morning, but I wouldn't be alone. The taxi moved through the streets while I watched the lights blur past. Every stoplight, every corner, took me further away from what had been my home for 35 years. 35 years. I bought that house when Tyler was just 2 years old. My husband Robert and I worked day and night to pay for it. He was an accountant, I was an elementary school teacher. We got up before dawn and came back after dark. But it was worth it. I remember the day we got the keys. Robert swept me up in his arms and carried me across the threshold like we were newlyweds again. Tyler was laughing in my arms. It smelled of fresh paint and the future. "This house will be ours forever," Robert had said. Forever. He didn't know that forever would only last until he died. 10 years ago. A silent heart attack. Just a regular Tuesday morning. He went in his sleep without saying goodbye, without giving me time to tell him how much I loved him. Tyler was 22 then. He was studying business administration. He cried so hard at the funeral I thought he'd never smile again. But he did smile again. He met Vanessa 2 years later. The driver pulled me out of my thoughts. "Any specific hotel, ma'am?" "No," I replied. "Something simple is fine." He nodded and kept driving. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Are you okay? Do you need me to call someone?" I shook my head. "I'm fine, thank you." That was a lie. I wasn't fine. How do you explain to a stranger that your heart is breaking in real time? I couldn't tell him my own son had kicked me out, that the woman I had welcomed with open arms had threatened me, that I felt like a stranger in the place where I had built every major memory of my life. We arrived at a small hotel near downtown. It wasn't fancy, but it looked clean. I paid the driver and got out with my suitcase. The receptionist smiled kindly. "Good evening. A room?" "Yes, please." "Just for tonight?" "Yes." She gave me the key to room 203. I walked up the stairs because the elevator was out of order. My legs were shaking, not from the effort, but from everything that had happened in the last few hours. I opened the room door. It was small, a twin bed, a desk, a tiny bathroom. Nothing like my bedroom, but I didn't care. I dropped the suitcase on the floor and sat on the bed. The mattress creaked under my weight. I looked at the ceiling. There was a water stain in the corner. And then, finally, I wept. I cried for Robert, who wasn't there to defend me. I cried for Tyler, for the boy he was and the man he had become. I cried for myself, for being so naive, because I had seen the signs. I had ignored them, but I had seen them. It all started 3 years ago when Tyler introduced me to Vanessa. "Mom, she's special," he told me, with that light in his eyes that only someone in love has. Vanessa was pretty, long hair, rehearsed smile, perfect manners. She hugged me like she'd known me her whole life. "Mrs. Evelyn, Tyler has told me so much about you. It's an honor to meet you." I liked her at first. How could I not? She was polite, attentive. She always brought flowers when she came to visit. They got married 6 months later, a small wedding in a garden venue. I paid for half of it. Vanessa insisted her family couldn't contribute much. "My dad is sick," she told me, "and my mom doesn't work, but I promise we'll pay you back someday." They never did. After the wedding, Tyler asked if they could stay at my house while they saved for theirs. "Just 6 months, Mom, I promise. We're going to save for a down payment on a condo." 6 months turned into a year. A year turned into 2. And then 3. At first, everything seemed fine. We ate dinner together, we laughed. Vanessa helped me in the kitchen, though she always found a way to make subtle comments. "Oh, Evelyn, you still use this pan? It's so old. You should buy a new one. Don't you get tired of cooking the same thing? I could teach you some modern recipes. This house is really big for one person, don't you think?" Small comments, seemingly harmless, but constant, like water dripping on a stone. And Tyler changed. He stopped asking how I was. He stopped sitting with me in the evenings to chat. He spent all his time with Vanessa, locked in their room, whispering things I couldn't hear. One day I found a piece of paper in the trash. It was an estimate from a real estate agency. It said, estimated property value, $400,000. My house. They were finding out how much my house was worth. I should have confronted them right then. I should have told them to leave. But I didn't, because I still had hope. Because I still believed Tyler was the boy I raised. God, we mothers can be so blind when it comes to our children, making excuses until the knife is already in our back. I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. I took my cell phone out of my purse. I had 3 missed calls from Tyler. None from Vanessa. I didn't call back. Instead, I looked for a number in my contact list, a number I hadn't dialed in years. My sister, Linda. Linda lived in Indianapolis. We had drifted apart after Robert's death, not because of anger, but because life happens. She had her family, I had mine. Or so I thought. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. Evelyn? Is that you? Her voice made me cry again. Linda, I need your help. Evelyn, what happened? Are you okay? Linda's voice sounded alarmed. It had been so long since we spoke that she probably thought something terrible had happened. And she was right. I'm not okay, I said, and my voice cracked. Linda, I need you to listen to me, please. I'm here, sister. Tell me everything. And I told her. I told her about Vanessa's ultimatum, about Tyler's cold smile, about the manila envelope with the papers they wanted to force me to sign, about how I walked out of my own house with a suitcase in hand, not knowing where to go. Linda didn't interrupt. She just listened. And when I finished, there was a long silence. Those bastards, she finally said, and her voice was trembling with rage. Evelyn, listen to me closely. You are not going to let them do this. Do you hear me? You are not going to allow it. I don't know what to do anymore, I whispered. He's my son, Linda. He's my only son. And you are his mother, the mother who raised him alone after Robert died, the mother who paid for his college, the mother who opened the doors of her home to them. And this is how he pays you? With betrayal. Her words hurt because they were true. Where are you now? She asked. In a hotel near downtown. Did you sign anything? No, I didn't sign anything. Oh, thank God, she sighed with relief. Evelyn, that house is in your name, right? Yes, it's always been in my name. Robert and I paid for it together, but when he died, everything legally went to me. Then they have no rights, none. That house is yours. I know, but Tyler betrayed you, Linda interrupted me. And I know it hurts. I know he's your son, but what he did is unforgivable. And if you don't do something now, they're going to end up keeping everything. People like Vanessa don't stop until they get what they want. She was right. I knew it. What do I do? I asked. Tomorrow morning, first thing, you are going to find a lawyer, the best one you can afford, and you are going to protect what is yours. A lawyer? Yes, and if you need money, I'll help you. But you cannot sit there with your arms crossed. They kicked you out of your house, Evelyn. They threatened you. You cannot let that stand. I felt something I hadn't felt in hours. Determination. You're right, I said. I'm going to do it. That's what I like to hear. And when this is all over, you come visit me. We haven't seen each other in years. I miss you, sister. My eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't from sadness. I miss you too, Evelyn. Now get some rest. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. That's what we're here for. Family is family, even if some people forget that. We hung up and I stared at the phone. Linda was right. I couldn't let myself be defeated. Not after all the work I'd put in. Not after everything I'd lost. I checked the time. It was almost 11 at night. Too late to make calls, but not too late to think. I opened my suitcase and took out the wooden box I had saved. Inside were my most important documents: the deed to the house, Robert's death certificate, my will. The will. I had made it 5 years ago after my doctor told me I had high blood pressure and needed to take better care of myself. In that will, everything I had went to Tyler. The house, my savings, everything. Because he was my son, my only son. And I believed he would take care of me when I couldn't take care of myself anymore. How wrong I was. It's a bitter pill to swallow, realizing the person you'd take a bullet for is the one pulling the trigger. I put the papers back and closed the box. Tomorrow morning, I would have to move fast. I lay in the hotel bed, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa's face, her victorious smile, her crossed arms, her cold voice telling me, sign this or sleep on the street. And I saw Tyler, my Tyler, the boy who cried when he fell down, the boy who hugged me before sleeping, the boy who told me, when I grow up, I'm going to take care of you, Mom, I promise. Where was that boy now? He was gone, devoured by a woman who only saw dollar signs and property lines, where I saw love and sacrifice. At 6 a.m, I got up. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours, but it didn't matter. I had things to do. I took a quick shower, got dressed, and went down to the reception. The same woman from the night before was there, looking sleepy. Leaving already, ma'am? Yes. Is there a coffee shop nearby? 2 blocks down, there's a diner that opens early. They make great coffee. I thanked her and went out into the street. The fresh morning air cleared my head a little. I walked to the diner and ordered a coffee and a muffin. I needed energy for what was coming. While I drank my coffee, I took out my phone and searched the internet. Lawyers specializing in real estate, eviction, inheritance. Several names appeared. I read reviews. I compared prices. Finally, I found one that looked reliable. His name was Attorney Martin Davis. His office was 20 minutes from where I was. I dialed the number. A secretary answered. Davis Law Firm, good morning. Good morning. I need an urgent appointment with the attorney. It's a case of illegal eviction or attempted dispossession. I don't really know what to call it. Can you come in today at 9 a.m.? I checked the time. It was 7:30. Yes, I'll be there. I hung up and finished my coffee. I felt a knot in my stomach. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if the lawyer could help me, but I had to try. At 8:30, I arrived at the building where the firm was located. It was a serious, professional place. I went up to the 3rd floor and knocked on the door. The secretary welcomed me with a polite smile. Mrs. Evelyn? Yes, the attorney is expecting you. Please, come in. I entered a small but orderly office. Behind the desk was a man of about 50, looking serious but with kind eyes. Good morning, Evelyn. I'm Martin Davis. Please sit down. Tell me what happened. And I told him everything. From the beginning. Since Vanessa came into my life. Since they started living in my house. Since the ultimatum last night. He listened attentively, taking notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me intently. Evelyn, what they did to you is a threat of dispossession. Illegally, you have all the rights on your side. That house is in your name. They are the ones living there without a lease, without paying rent. You can kick them out whenever you want. Really? Really. But I need you to bring me the property deed and any document that proves you are the owner. Do you have them? Yes, I have them right here. I took the wooden box out of my bag and showed him the papers. He reviewed them carefully. Perfect. Everything is in order. Now, if you want, we can initiate an immediate eviction process. We can also request an order so you can return to your property accompanied by an officer to ensure your safety. I felt my heart beating faster. Can I go back today? Yes, we can do it today. I'll take care of everything. I just need you to sign some documents authorizing me to act on your behalf. I signed everything he asked. My hands were shaking, but I did it. How long will it take? I asked. A few hours. I'm going to make the necessary calls. By noon, I should have everything ready. I suggest you go rest a bit. I'll call you as soon as it's all prepared. Thank you, Mr. Davis. You don't know how much I appreciate this. You have nothing to thank me for. It's my job. And let me tell you something, Evelyn. What they did to you is unforgivable. But you did the right thing by not signing anything. And now we are going to fix this, legally, the way it should be." I left the office feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. I walked aimlessly for a while. I needed to process everything that had just happened. Attorney Davis had told me everything would be ready by noon. That was 3 hours away. 3 hours that felt like an eternity. I sat on a bench in the main plaza. There were pigeons pecking at the ground, kids running, street vendors selling hot dogs and ice cream. Life went on as normal for everyone, except for me. I took out my phone and saw I had 7 missed calls, all from Tyler, and 3 text messages. "Mom, where are you? We need to talk. Call me. Don't be stubborn. Come back to the house. Don't be stubborn." As if I was the one doing something wrong. As if I was the one who had threatened, who had demanded, who had forgotten everything the word family means. I put the phone away without answering. At that moment, it rang. It was Attorney Davis. "Evelyn, I have good news. Everything is ready. I got an order so you can return to your property accompanied by a law enforcement officer. He will ensure everything is done legally and peacefully." My heart started racing. "When?" "Right now, if you want. The officer can meet us at your address in an hour. I'll accompany you, too." "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I want to do it now." "Perfect. Give me the address and we'll meet you there." I gave him my address. My house. Not theirs. Mine. I took a taxi and asked him to take me back to the hotel. I needed to pick up my things and prepare for what was coming. As the taxi moved through the streets, I thought about what was going to happen. How would Tyler react when he saw me arrive with a lawyer and a police officer? How would Vanessa react? Part of me was scared, but another part, the part that had cried all night, the part that had been humiliated and threatened, that part was ready to face them. I arrived at the hotel, picked up my suitcase, and checked out. The receptionist smiled at me. "I hope everything gets better, ma'am." "It will," I told her. "Thank you." I took another taxi, this time straight to my house. I arrived 15 minutes before the agreed time. I stood on the sidewalk, looking at the facade, the windows I had painted myself, the garden Robert and I planted when Tyler was small, the wooden door we had chosen together. All of that was mine, and no one was going to take it from me. A few minutes later, a car arrived. Attorney Davis got out with a briefcase in hand. Behind him, a cruiser pulled up, and Officer Reynolds got out in his uniform, badge shining. "Evelyn," the attorney greeted me. "This is Officer Reynolds. He's going to supervise the whole process." The officer extended his hand. "Good morning, ma'am. Don't worry. We're going to do this as calmly as possible. Are you ready?" I nodded. "I'm ready." We walked to the door. My hand was shaking when I rang the bell. No one answered. I rang again. Finally, I heard footsteps. The door opened. It was Vanessa. She had her hair tied up, was wearing a bathrobe, and held a coffee mug in her hand. She looked at me with surprise. Then she saw the lawyer and the officer. Her face changed, from surprise to confusion, from confusion to something that looked like fear. "What is this?" she stammered. Attorney Davis took a step forward. "Good morning. I am Martin Davis, attorney for Evelyn, the legal owner of this property. I am accompanied by Officer Reynolds to enforce my client's rights. May we come in?" Vanessa stood frozen. The coffee cup trembled in her hand. I don't understand." "It's very simple," the attorney said with a firm but polite voice. "This property is in Evelyn's name. She was forced to abandon her home under threats. We are here to guarantee she can return safely." "Tyler!" Vanessa screamed toward the inside of the house. "Tyler, come here!" I heard hurried footsteps. Tyler appeared at the door, wearing pajama pants and a wrinkled t-shirt. He looked at me, then at the lawyer, then at the officer. "Mom, what's going on?" His voice sounded confused, almost innocent, as if he didn't know exactly what he had done the night before. I took a step forward. "What's happening, Tyler, is that I came to take back my house." "Your house?" Vanessa repeated, her voice rising in pitch. "What are you talking about? This is our house." Officer Reynolds intervened. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to calm down. I have an order here certifying that Evelyn is the legal owner of this property. You are living here without a lease agreement and without paying rent. Legally, she has every right to ask you to leave." Vanessa went pale. "That can't be. Tyler, say something." But Tyler said nothing. He just stared at me as if looking at a stranger. Attorney Davis opened his briefcase and pulled out several documents. "Here are the property deeds. Everything is in Evelyn's name. I also have a copy of her husband's death certificate, confirming that upon his passing, all assets legally transferred to his wife. There is no legal doubt about this." Vanessa dropped the coffee mug. It shattered on the floor. The dark liquid spread across the tiles. No one moved. "You can't do this to us," Vanessa said, and her voice began to crack. "You can't kick us out like this. We live here. This is our house." "It isn't," I said calmly. "It never was. I welcomed you into my home because you are family, because I thought you were saving for yours. But instead of that, you tried to steal what is mine." "It's not stealing," Vanessa screamed. "We just wanted things to be in order. You're getting old. What if something happens to you? Someone has to take charge of all this." "Someone will," I said, "but it won't be you." I pulled an envelope from my purse, an envelope Attorney Davis had given me that morning. "Last night you wanted me to sign power of attorney. You wanted me to hand everything over. Well, this morning I signed something, but not for you." I extended the envelope to Vanessa. She didn't take it. "What is that?" "It's my new last will and testament. I signed it this morning, notarized. In it, I leave everything I have to my sister Linda. This house, my savings, everything. Tyler no longer appears in any document." The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler took a step forward. "Mom, you can't do that." "Yes, I can," I said, and my voice didn't shake, and I already did. Vanessa began to cry, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of frustration. "This isn't fair. We took care of you. We lived with you. We helped you." "You helped me?" I repeated, feeling the rage rise in my throat. "Did you help me when you told me to sign or sleep on the street? Did you help me when you threatened me in my own living room? Did you help me when you treated me like a nuisance in my own home?" Vanessa didn't answer. She just cried. Tyler remained silent, looking at the floor, hands in his pockets, like a child who knows he did something wrong but doesn't want to admit it. Officer Reynolds took a step forward. "Folks, I'm going to ask you to gather your personal belongings. You have until the end of the day today to vacate the property. If you do not do so voluntarily, I will have to proceed with a forced eviction." "Today?" Vanessa asked, incredulous. "You're telling us to leave today?" "That is correct," the officer said. "The law is on the owner's side." Vanessa looked at me with pure hate. "You are a bad mother. Did you know that? A bad mother. How can you do this to your own son?" Her words hurt. I won't deny it. But I didn't let them in. A bad mother would have signed those papers last night. She would have let them rob her. She would have allowed them to trample her. But I am not that mother. I turned around and walked into the house. My house. I walked through the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. Everything was a mess. Dirty dishes in the sink, clothes thrown on the couch, empty bottles on the table. This is how they had taken care of my house. I went up the stairs. I entered my room. Someone had been sleeping in my bed. The sheets were wrinkled. There were Vanessa's clothes in my closet. They had invaded even my most intimate space. I took a deep breath and started pulling out everything that wasn't mine. I threw it into the hallway. Attorney Davis came up behind me. "Are you okay, Evelyn?" "I'm fine," I said. "I just want them gone. I want this to end." "It will end," he assured me. "Today." I went back down. Vanessa and Tyler were in the living room, packing things into boxes. She was crying. He was still silent. I stood in the doorway and watched them. Part of me wanted to cry, wanted to scream, wanted to ask Tyler how we had come to this. But I didn't. because I already knew the answer. Officer Reynolds stood at the entrance of the living room, making sure everything was orderly. Attorney Davis was by my side, a silent guardian. I sat in the recliner that had been Robert's, the same one where he sat to read the paper on Sunday mornings, the same one where Tyler would curl up when he was little so I could read him bedtime stories. Now that chair was a witness to the worst betrayal of my life. Vanessa went up and down the stairs with boxes. Her face was swollen from crying. Every time she passed me, she shot me glances full of resentment, but I no longer cared what she thought of me. Tyler, on the other hand, barely moved. He packed slowly, as if every object he put in a box weighed 1,000 pounds. He didn't look at me, didn't speak to me. It was like I was invisible, and maybe to him, in that moment, I was. Attorney Davis approached me. "Do you need anything, Evelyn? Water? Do you want us to call someone?" I shook my head. "I'm fine. I just want this to be over soon." He nodded and returned to his position. He was a serious man, professional. But there was something in his look that made me feel he understood my pain. Maybe he had lived through a family betrayal too. I looked at the grandfather clock. It was 1 in the afternoon. 2 hours had passed since we arrived, and they still hadn't finished packing. Vanessa came down again with a box full of clothes. She dropped it on the floor with a dry thud. "This is ridiculous," she said with a broken voice. "We have nowhere to go. Do you understand? We have nowhere to go." Attorney Davis looked at her calmly. "You should have thought of that before threatening Evelyn. Actions have consequences, ma'am." "You don't know anything," Vanessa shouted. "You don't know what it's like living in this house. She treated us like servants, always demanding, always criticizing." I felt something inside me explode. "I treated you like servants," I said, and my voice sounded louder than I expected. "Are you seriously going to say that? After I gave you a roof without asking for a single dollar of rent? After I cooked for you, did your laundry, gave you everything you needed?" Vanessa looked at me with eyes full of tears. "But it was always your house. You always reminded us. You always made us feel like we were borrowing it." "Because you were borrowing it," I said firmly. "This house is mine. It always was, and you knew that." "But we contributed too. I cleaned. I cooked sometimes." "Sometimes," I repeated, and always with comments about how I did things wrong. Always complaining about how old the house was, how outdated my things were, how boring my life was. Vanessa opened her mouth to respond, but Tyler finally spoke. "That's enough, Vanessa." His voice sounded tired, defeated. Vanessa turned to him. "That's enough? That's all you're going to say? Your mother is kicking us out onto the street, and you just say, 'That's enough'?" Tyler stared at her. "It was you who insisted on asking her to sign those papers. I told you to wait. I told you it wasn't the time, but you didn't want to listen." Vanessa recoiled as if she had been slapped. "Are you blaming me? Seriously? You agreed with it. You said it was a good idea." "I said we could talk to her," Tyler replied, and for the first time, he looked me in the eyes. "I didn't say we had to threaten her." There was a long, heavy silence. Vanessa covered her face with her hands and began to cry again. This time, her sobs were different, deeper, more real. Tyler walked toward me. He stopped a yard away, as if he didn't dare get closer. "Mom," his voice sounded like a child's, like the child he had been so long ago. But I was no longer the same mother who forgave everything. "What, Tyler?" He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." 2 words, just 2 words, and they weren't enough. "You're sorry?" I repeated. "Are you sorry you threatened me? Are you sorry you kicked me out of my own house? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" He lowered his gaze. "I didn't want things to end this way." "Then you shouldn't have let them start this way," I said. "You are my son, Tyler. I gave you life. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked double shifts so you could study. I never asked you for anything in return, just respect, and I couldn't even have that." "Mom!" "No," I interrupted him. "Don't call me Mom like that word still means something to you. Last night you made very clear what I mean to you. An obstacle, a nuisance, something to be removed from the path." "That's not true," he said. and his voice cracked. "Then why didn't you defend me? Why didn't you tell your wife she was wrong? Why did you stay silent while she threatened me?" Tyler didn't answer, because he had no answer. Vanessa approached him and grabbed his arm. "Let's go, Tyler. There's nothing left to do here." He shook off her grip. "I need to talk to my mother alone." "For what?" Vanessa asked bitterly. "She already made her decision. She already cut us out of her will. She already took everything from us." "I didn't take anything from you," I said firmly. "You tried to take from me. There is a difference." Vanessa looked at me with contempt. "You are a cruel woman, Evelyn. Someday you're going to regret this." "The only thing I regret," I said slowly, "is having trusted you, is having opened the doors of my home to you, is having treated you like a daughter. Because you never saw me as a mother. You only saw a piece of property you wanted for yourself." Vanessa clenched her fists. "That's not true." "Then why did you investigate how much my house was worth? I found the estimate in the trash, the one you requested from the real estate agency." Her face went pale. I just wanted to know. I wanted to know how much money you were going to make when you finally got rid of me." I finished the sentence for her. Officer Reynolds stepped forward. "Ladies, sir, I ask you to keep calm. This isn't getting us anywhere." He was right. Nothing we said would change what had happened. Nothing would erase the betrayal. Nothing would return the trust. Vanessa wiped her tears with rage and went back up the stairs. Tyler stayed there, looking at me. "Did you really take me out of the will?" he asked quietly. "Yes." "Everything? The house? The savings? Everything?" "Everything." He nodded slowly, as if processing the information. "And you left it to Aunt Linda?" "Yes. She never betrayed me. She never threatened me. She deserves what I have more than you." Tyler closed his eyes. "What if I tell you Vanessa pressured me, that I didn't want to do it, but she insisted?" "Then I would tell you that you are a coward," I replied without hesitation, "because a real man doesn't let anyone, not even his wife, disrespect his mother. A real man defends his family. But you didn't do that." The words left my mouth like knives, and they hurt, because they were true. Tyler opened his eyes and looked at me. There were tears in them. "Am I not your son anymore?" That question broke my heart, because of course he was still my son. He was still the child I had carried in my womb for 9 months, the child who had taken his first steps in this very living room, the child who had told me, "I love you, Mom," thousands of times. But he was also the man who had betrayed me. "You will always be my son," I said, and my voice trembled for the first time. "But that doesn't mean I have to allow you to hurt me. I gave you life, Tyler, but I didn't give you permission to destroy mine." He covered his face with his hands and began to cry. It wasn't a fake cry. It was real, deep, gut-wrenching. Part of me wanted to get up, hug him, tell him everything was going to be okay, that I forgave him, that we could fix this. But I didn't. Because forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean allowing it to happen again. Sometimes the hardest part of love is standing your ground when your heart wants to surrender. Vanessa came down again with more boxes, saw Tyler crying, and frowned. "What happened?" "Nothing," Tyler said, wiping his tears. "Let's finish packing." They continued working in silence. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. Every box they took out, every piece of furniture they moved, every step they took toward the door. It was like watching a whole life disappear. Attorney Davis approached me again. "They're almost done. Do you want to check that they aren't taking anything that doesn't belong to them?" I nodded and got up. I went up the stairs and checked my room. They had taken their clothes, their shoes, their personal things, but everything of mine was still there. I went back down and checked the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. Everything was in order. Finally, at 5 p.m, they finished. All their belongings were in the yard, piled in boxes and bags. They had called a moving truck that arrived just in time. Tyler and Vanessa walked out of the house for the last time. They stood in the driveway looking back inside as if they couldn't believe this was happening. Officer Reynolds handed them a document. "Please sign here. It is an acknowledgement that you vacated the property voluntarily and did not remove anything that did not belong to you." Vanessa signed with rage. Tyler signed without looking at the paper. The officer gave me a copy. Evelyn, the property is officially fully yours again. If they attempt to return without your permission, you can call the police and file a trespassing complaint. Thank you, officer, I said. He nodded and said goodbye. Attorney Davis shook my hand. My work here is done. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to call me. And congratulations, Evelyn. You did the right thing. Thank you, Mr. Davis, for everything. He left in his car. I stood alone in the driveway, watching the moving truck take Tyler and Vanessa's things away. Tyler got into his car. Vanessa was in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead. Neither of them looked at me. The car started and drove away down the street. And then, finally, I was alone in my house. I closed the door and I cried. I cried for everything I had lost, for the son I no longer recognized, for the family that had broken, for the years I was never going to get back. But I also cried with relief, because for the first time in 3 years, my house was mine again. I locked the door and stood in the foyer, listening to the silence. A silence so deep it hurt. No voices, no footsteps, no sound of the TV on or noise of dishes in the kitchen. Just silence. My house was empty, completely empty, and for the first time in 3 years, I could breathe. I walked slowly to the living room. My footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor. I sat in Robert's chair and looked around. Everything was in its place. The photos on the walls, my mother's clock, the porcelain vase. But something had changed. I no longer felt the oppression. I no longer felt that constant tension in my shoulders. I didn't have to watch every word I said, every gesture I made to avoid annoying Vanessa or provoking a passive-aggressive comment. I was alone, but I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. I went up the stairs and entered my room. Someone had rummaged through my closet, but it didn't matter. I would fix it later. The important thing was that now I could walk through my own house without feeling like I was invading someone else's space. I opened the windows. The fresh afternoon air rushed in, carrying away the stale smell Vanessa had left. It smelled of her sweet perfume, her hairspray, her presence. But that too would leave with time. I sat on the bed and took out my phone. I had 11 missed calls from Tyler and a new message from Vanessa. I hope you're happy. You left us with nothing. No house, no family. You are a cruel and selfish woman. Someday God will judge you for this. I read the message twice. Then I deleted it. I wasn't going to let her words poison this moment. I dialed Linda's number. She answered on the second ring. "Evelyn, how are you? What happened?" "They're gone," I said, and my voice sounded calmer than I expected. The lawyer did his job, the officer too. Tyler and Vanessa left half an hour ago. Linda sighed with relief. "Thank God. And you? Are you okay?" I don't know how I am. Sad, relieved, angry, all at the same time. "It's normal, sister. You just went through something very difficult, but you did the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Vanessa sent me a message. She called me cruel and selfish. Linda let out a bitter laugh. Of course she did. People like her always play the victim. They never accept responsibility for their actions. Ignore her, Evelyn. She's not worth it. I know. I already deleted the message. Good job. And now rest. You've had 2 horrible days. Give yourself time to process everything. Linda, thank you for listening to me, for supporting me, for being the sister I've always needed. You have nothing to thank me for. That's what family is. Real family. We hung up and I stared at the ceiling. Linda was right. I needed to rest, but first I needed to clean. I went down to the kitchen and found the mess Vanessa had left. Dirty dishes piled in the sink, food scraps on the stove, the table full of crumbs and coffee stains. This is what living with them had been like. Disorder, lack of respect, the constant feeling that I was the maid in my own house. But no more. I started washing the dishes. The hot water burned my hands a little, but I liked it. It made me feel like I was washing away everything bad, everything painful. While I washed, I thought of Robert. "What would you do in my place?" I asked the air, as if he could hear me. "Would you tell me I was too harsh? Or would you tell me I did the right thing?" There was no answer, of course, but in my heart I knew what Robert would have done. He never allowed anyone to disrespect our family. He was always a man of principles, of dignity, and he had taught me that love without respect isn't love, it's submission. I finished washing the dishes and cleaned the kitchen, then the living room, then the dining room. I spent 3 hours cleaning every corner of the house, scrubbing away any trace of Vanessa. When I finished, it was already dark. It was almost 8 at night. I hadn't eaten anything all day, but I wasn't hungry, just tired. I made myself a chamomile tea and sat at the dining table. The same table where Vanessa had slammed down the manila envelope. The same one where she had threatened me. But now that table was mine again. I drank my tea slowly, savoring every sip. Outside, I heard the sound of crickets, the distant bark of a dog. Life continued its normal course, and I had to continue too. I thought about the will I had signed that morning, how I had removed Tyler from it, how I had put everything in Linda's name. Had I been too harsh? Maybe. Did I regret it? No. Because Tyler had to learn that actions have consequences, that you can't betray the people who love you and expect everything to stay the same, that respect isn't optional, it's fundamental. And if someday he learned that lesson, if someday he truly regretted what he had done, then we could talk. We could try to rebuild something. But for now, I needed to protect myself. I needed to set boundaries. I needed to prove to myself that I was worth more than the treatment they had given me. I finished my tea and washed the cup. I went up the stairs and entered my room. I put on my pajamas and got into bed. My bed. Not theirs. Mine. The sheets smelled clean, fresh, like me. I closed my eyes and waited for sleep to come. But it didn't. My mind wouldn't stop replaying scenes from the day. Vanessa's face when she saw the officer. Tyler's expression when I told him I had cut him out of the will. The tears, the words, everything. I thought of my son when he was little, how he held my hand when we crossed the street, how he hugged me when he was scared, how he told me I was the best mom in the world. Where did that boy go? When did he turn into the man who threatened me? Was it my fault? Did I spoil him too much? Did I give him everything without teaching him the value of things? The questions tormented me, but I had no answers. The only thing I knew was that I couldn't change the past. I could only decide what to do with the present. And in the present, I had chosen my dignity over my pain. I got out of bed and walked to the window. The street was empty. The streetlights shone dimly. Everything was quiet. I opened the drawer of my nightstand and took out an old photograph. It was of Tyler when he was 5 years old. He was in the yard, throwing a ball and smiling with all his baby teeth. My boy, my baby, my betrayal. I put the photograph back and returned to bed. This time, sleep came. Heavy, deep, necessary. I dreamed of Robert. We dreamed we were in the garden, planting flowers. He took my hand and told me everything was going to be okay, that I was stronger than I believed, that he was proud of me. I woke up at 6 a.m. with swollen eyes, but a lighter heart. It was a new day, the first of many in my reclaimed house. I got up, showered, and went down to make coffee. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the kitchen, a familiar, comforting smell. I sat at the table with my mug and looked out the window. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something like peace. My phone rang. It was a message from Linda. "Good morning, sister. How did you wake up? I'm thinking of coming to visit you this weekend. It's been years since we've seen each other in person. Is that okay with you?" I smiled. "I would love that. I'll be waiting for you." I put the phone away and kept drinking my coffee. I thought about the weekend, about seeing Linda after so long, about telling her everything, calmly, about crying with her if necessary, about laughing, too. Because life didn't stop, and neither would I. I spent the rest of the morning organizing the house. I changed the sheets on all the beds, washed the curtains, opened all the windows to let the fresh air in. I wanted the house to smell like me again, like my memories, like my life. At noon, the doorbell rang. It was strange. I wasn't expecting anyone. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It was an older woman, about 70, with a cane in her hand. I opened the door carefully. "Yes, how can I help you?" The woman smiled kindly. "Are you Evelyn?" "Yes, that's me." "I'm Rose, your neighbor from 2 houses down. I came because yesterday I saw a moving truck arrive, and I saw your son and daughter-in-law leave, and I wanted to know if you were okay." I was surprised by her concern. Rose and I waved occasionally, but we had never had a long conversation. "I'm okay," I said. "Thank you for asking." She nodded, but didn't move. "I know it's none of my business," she said carefully, "but I lived through something similar years ago with my son and daughter-in-law. They tried to keep my house. I had to evict them legally." My eyes filled with tears. "Really?" "Really, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But it was also the most necessary, because sometimes love also means setting boundaries." Those words hit my heart. "And your son? Did you speak again?" Rose smiled sadly. "Yes, after 5 years. He apologized. He understood that what he did was wrong. Now we have a distant but respectful relationship. It's not perfect, but it's honest." 5 years, I repeated. 5 years, she confirmed, but it was worth the wait, because when he came back, he did it with humility, and that's what matters. I wiped my tears. "Thank you, Rose. You don't know how much I needed to hear that." She patted my arm. "If you need anything at all, I'm 2 houses down. Don't hesitate to knock on my door." "Thank you." She walked away slowly, limping with her cane. I watched her go and felt something strange. Hope. Maybe Tyler would come back someday. Maybe he would learn. Maybe he would realize what he lost. Or maybe not, but that no longer depended on me. I had done my part. I had defended my dignity. I had protected what was mine. And now, I just had to live. I closed the door and went back to the living room. I sat in Robert's chair and looked at the photos on the wall. My whole life was there, every important moment, every valuable memory, and no one was going to take it from me. The days passed slow, but necessary. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Each day was a small victory. Every morning I woke up in my own house, without annoying voices, without reproachful looks, without passive-aggressive comments, was a gift. But they were also difficult days. The silence was sometimes too much. I found myself waiting to hear footsteps on the stairs, the sound of the television, anything to remind me I wasn't completely alone in the world. Tyler didn't call again. Neither did Vanessa. It was like they had disappeared from my life completely. And maybe it was better that way. On Friday afternoon, Linda called me. "Sister, I'm leaving early tomorrow from Indianapolis. I'll arrive at your house around 11 in the morning. Does that sound good?" "Perfect," I said, and I felt genuine excitement. "I'm waiting for you." "Do you need me to bring anything? Food? Anything?" "Just bring yourself. That's more than enough." Linda laughed. "All right, see you tomorrow. I love you, Evelyn." "I love you too." That night, I dedicated myself to preparing the house for her visit. I cleaned the guest room. I changed the sheets. I put fresh flowers in a vase on the nightstand. I wanted everything to be perfect. Not just for Linda, but for me. I needed to feel like my house was becoming a cozy place again, a place full of love and not tension. Saturday, I woke up early. I prepared homemade chicken pot pie, Linda's favorite dish. I also made fresh coffee and bought some cinnamon rolls, just like our mother used to make. At 11 sharp, I heard a car stop in front of my house. I ran to the door and opened it. Linda got out of the car with a small suitcase in hand. She was 63, 2 years older than me, but she looked radiant. Her gray hair was perfectly styled. Her eyes shone with that light she always had, even as a child. "Evelyn!" We hugged in the middle of the yard, a long, tight, necessary hug. When we separated, both of us had tears in our eyes. "Let me look at you," Linda said, holding me by the shoulders. "How are you? Are you really okay?" "I am now," I said, "now that you're here." We went into the house, and Linda looked around with nostalgia. "This house brings back so many memories. Remember when Robert and you bought it? I came to help you paint. We ended up with more paint on us than on the walls." I laughed for the first time in days. Of course I remember. Robert said we looked like abstract paintings. We sat in the living room and I poured coffee. Linda took a sip and closed her eyes. "Tastes just like Mom's." I learned from the best. We spent the next hour catching up. Linda told me about her life in Indianapolis. Her 2 children were married and had given her 4 grandchildren in total. Her husband had passed away 8 years ago, just like Robert, but from cancer. "I miss them," Linda said with sadness. "Sometimes I feel like I have so much to tell them, and I can't. It's like having a phone with no service." "I know," I said. "I talk to Robert all the time. In my mind, I ask him what he would do, what he would say, even though I know I'm never going to get an answer." Linda took my hand. "But I think they hear us from wherever they are, and I think they're proud of us, of how we keep going despite everything." I nodded without saying anything, because I didn't trust my voice. After a moment, Linda changed the subject. "Well, now tell me everything that happened, calmly, from the beginning." And I told her everything. From when Vanessa entered our lives 3 years ago, from the first subtle comments I ignored, from Tyler's transformation, little by little, until he became someone I no longer recognized. I told her about the ultimatum, the manila envelope, the night I spent in the hotel, the call I made to her, Attorney Davis, the officer, how I returned to my house with the law on my side. I told her about Tyler's tears, Vanessa's rage, how they left with their things in a moving truck, leaving me alone in the house that was always mine. And I told her about the will, how I had removed Tyler from it, how everything was now in her name. Linda listened in silence, without interrupting me once. When I finished, she had tears in her eyes. "Evelyn, I don't know what to say. I can't believe Tyler did that to you. The same boy who played with my kids when they came to visit. The same one who cried when we left because he didn't want us to go." "That boy doesn't exist anymore," I said with a broken voice. "Or maybe he never truly existed. Maybe I just saw what I wanted to see." "Don't say that," Linda said firmly. "That boy did exist. What happens is people get lost along the way, and the fault isn't yours. You raised him right. You gave him values. You taught him respect and love. But sometimes people choose wrong, and there's nothing we can do about it." "What if I made a mistake?" I asked. "What if I was too harsh? What if I should have given him another chance?" Linda looked me straight in the eyes. "Another chance for what? So he could humiliate you again? So he could threaten you? So he could take everything you worked for during years? No, Evelyn, you did the right thing. And even though it hurts, even though it's the hardest thing you've done in your life, it was necessary." Her words wrapped around me like a hug. "Thank you, Linda. I needed to hear that." "And now," she said with a smile, "let's eat that pot pie that smells delicious, because life doesn't stop, and neither do we." We ate at the dining table. The pot pie was perfect, the crust flaky just like it should be. The coffee warmed our souls. We talked about memories, about our childhood, about our parents, about all those things only sisters can share. "Remember when Mom taught us to make biscuits?" Linda asked. "You made yours so lumpy. Dad said they looked like maps of imaginary countries." We laughed until our stomachs hurt. "And yours were so perfect. Mom said you were going to be a famous chef." "And look at me now," Linda said, "cooking for my grandkids who say they prefer fast food." Times change, but some things don't, like the love between sisters. The afternoon flew by. After eating, Linda insisted on helping me wash the dishes. Then we sat in the garden under the shade of the maple tree Robert had planted more than 30 years ago. "This tree has seen your whole life," Linda said, touching the trunk with affection. "It saw Tyler grow up, saw Robert get sick, saw you fight, and now sees you start over." I looked up. The branches were full of leaves turning gold. "It's still standing," I said, "despite everything." "Like you," Linda said. "You're also going to keep standing. You're going to keep living. You're going to keep being happy, even if you don't see it right now. I promise you." We sat there until the sun began to set. The sky turned orange and red. It was beautiful. That night we had a light dinner, cinnamon rolls with hot chocolate, and kept talking. About everything, about nothing, about the important and the trivial. At 11 at night, Linda yawned. "I think the trip tired me out more than I thought." "Are you upset if I go to sleep?" "Not at all. Your room is ready. If you need anything, just tell me." Linda got up and hugged me. "Thank you for letting me come. I needed this. We needed to be together." "Thank you for coming. You don't know how much I needed it." She went up the stairs and I stayed in the living room a while longer. I looked at the photos on the wall. My whole life was there. The good moments, the bad ones too, though those weren't in photos. I thought about Tyler. Where would he be right now? Would he have found a place to stay? Would he be regretful, or would he be blaming me for everything? I didn't know, and part of me didn't want to know, because now my focus had to be on me, on healing, on rebuilding my life. I went up the stairs and past the guest room. The door was ajar. I saw Linda asleep, with a blanket up to her neck, breathing calmly. Having someone in the house again felt good, but not just anyone. Someone who truly loved me. Someone who didn't want to take anything from me. Someone who just wanted to be with me. I entered my room and lay down. This time sleep came quickly, and I dreamed of good things, of my mom making biscuits, of Robert planting the maple tree, of Tyler as a boy, running in the garden. I woke up Sunday with sun rays entering through the window. I heard noises in the kitchen. I went down and found Linda making scrambled eggs and bacon. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she said with a smile. "I hope I didn't wake you." "Not at all. Smells delicious." We had breakfast together. Linda told me her kids had called her early to see how she was, that her grandkids had sent her messages with heart emojis. "I'm lucky," she said. "I have a family that loves me." "I'm lucky too," I said. "I have you." After breakfast, we sat in the living room with more coffee. Linda looked at me seriously. "Evelyn, I want to talk to you about something important." "Tell me." "It's about the will, about what you put in my name." I tensed up. "What's wrong? Don't you want it in your name?" "It's not that," she said quickly. "It's just that I don't want you to do something out of anger, out of spite. If you put everything in my name just to hurt Tyler, then it's not right." "I didn't do it for that," I said firmly. "I did it because you are my family, the only one who has been there for me, the only one who hasn't betrayed me. If something happens to me, I want you to have everything. Not Tyler, not Vanessa. You." Linda had tears in her eyes. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure." She nodded slowly. "Then I accept, but with one condition." "Which is?" "That if someday Tyler returns, if someday he truly apologizes and proves he changed, you can forgive him. Not for him, for you. Because forgiveness heals, and you deserve to heal." Her words made me cry. "I don't know if I can forgive him, Linda. It hurt too much." "I know," she said, taking my hand. "But forgiveness isn't for the one who did the damage. It's for the one who received it. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean allowing it to happen again. It just means letting go of the weight you carry in your heart. And if he never returns, then you will have done your part. You will have let go of the weight anyway, and you will live lighter." I wiped my tears. "You are wise, sister." "I'm not wise. I'm just old. And we old ladies learn through hard knocks." We laughed through the tears. Linda stayed with me all Sunday. We watched old movies on TV, cooked together, laughed at silly jokes, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something like happiness. At dusk, Linda packed her suitcase. "I have to leave early tomorrow," she said. "My grandkids have a school play and I promised to be there." "I understand. Thank you for coming. These 2 days meant everything to me." "For me too. And remember, Evelyn, you aren't alone. You are never alone. I am a phone call away. Always." We hugged tight. That night, after Linda went to sleep, I stayed sitting in the living room, thinking about everything that had happened. A week ago, I was being threatened in my own house. Now, I was free. Alone, yes, but free. And maybe loneliness wasn't so bad after all. Maybe it was the price of peace. Linda left Monday morning, as planned. I hugged her at the door and watched her drive away until she disappeared around the corner. The house fell silent again. But this time, the silence felt different. It was no longer oppressive. It was calm. The following days were a strange mix of routine and reflection. I got up early, made my coffee, cleaned the house even if it wasn't dirty. I needed to stay busy. I needed not to think too much. But the nights were difficult. At night, when there was nothing left to do, when the house was dark and only the tick-tock of my mother's clock could be heard, my mind filled with questions. Did I do the right thing? Is Tyler okay? Will he hate me forever? Will he ever come back? A week after Linda's visit, on a Wednesday afternoon, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I thought it might be Vanessa with another number, ready to insult me again. But something made me answer. "Hello?" There was silence on the other end. Then a woman's voice. Older, trembling. "Mrs. Evelyn?" "Yes, this is she who is speaking." "My name is Doris. I am Vanessa's mother." My blood ran cold. Vanessa's mother? "Yes, ma'am, excuse me for bothering you. I know you don't know me, and I know things between you and my daughter didn't end well." I sat on the couch. My heart beat fast. "What do you want?" There was another silence. Then I heard a deep sigh. "I want to ask for your forgiveness." I didn't expect those words. Forgiveness? Why? For my daughter, for what she did to you, for how she treated you. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion. "Doris, I don't understand. Why are you calling me?" "Because I need someone to know the truth. I need someone to know that I didn't raise my daughter to do what she did." Her voice cracked. She was crying. "Ma'am, are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay. I haven't been okay since I found out what happened." "Did Vanessa tell you?" "Yes, she told me her version. She told me you kicked her out on the street for no reason, that you were cruel to her, that Tyler was destroyed. And I believed her. At first." "At first?" "Yes, but then I started noticing things, inconsistencies in her story, little lies. And 3 days ago, I found something." "What did you find?" Doris took a deep breath. "Vanessa left her purse at my house when she came to visit. I was looking for a pen and I found a paper. It was an estimate from a real estate agency with your address, Evelyn, and a handwritten note that said, 'With this property, we could clear all debts and start from zero.'" I was speechless. "So she knew?" "She knew," Doris said with a broken voice. "She knew from before. She planned it. And when I confronted her, when I asked her what that was, she screamed at me. She told me not to meddle in her life, that I didn't understand anything, and she left my house, slamming the door." I heard sobs on the other end of the line. "Doris, I'm so sorry." "No," she said firmly. "Don't you apologize. I am the one who must apologize. My daughter did something unforgivable to you, and now I understand why you did what you did. Any mother would have done the same. Thank you for telling me that." "Evelyn, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Tyler, did he agree with all this, or did Vanessa manipulate him?" That question hurt, because I had asked myself the same thing 1,000 times. "I don't know," I said honestly. "He didn't defend me. He allowed his wife to threaten me. He looked me in the eye and told me to sign the papers or leave. So, even if Vanessa pressured him, he made the decision to be on her side." And that hurts too, Doris sighed. You're right. I'm so sorry. Doris, can I ask you something? Of course. Where are they now, Tyler and Vanessa? There was a pause. They are living in a small apartment in a rough part of town. Vanessa quit her job 2 months ago because she said she was too stressed. Tyler is the only one working, and according to what my daughter told me, they barely have enough to pay rent and food. I felt a pang in my chest. It wasn't satisfaction, it was sadness. I understand. Evelyn, I know I have no right to ask you this, but if someday Tyler comes looking for you, if someday he apologizes, please consider forgiving him. Not for my daughter, for him, because I think he is paying a very high price for a decision he made under pressure. If someday he comes, I said slowly, and if his apology is genuine, then we'll talk. But I can't promise you anything more. That's more than I deserve to hear. Thank you, Evelyn. And truly, from my heart, I ask for your forgiveness for what my daughter did to you. Thank you for calling, Doris. That meant a lot to me. We hung up and I stared at the phone. I couldn't believe what had just happened. Vanessa's mother had called me to apologize, to tell me the truth. And that truth confirmed what I already knew. Vanessa had planned everything for a long time. It wasn't an impulse. It was calculated, cold, deliberate. But what about Tyler? Had he planned it too? Or was he really manipulated? I had no answers, and maybe I never would. 2 more weeks passed. Life continued its course. I went back to giving tutoring lessons to some neighborhood kids, something I had stopped doing when Vanessa complained that I filled the house with strangers. Now, without her, I could do what I wanted in my own home. My students were elementary school kids who needed help with math and English. They paid me little, but I didn't care. I liked teaching. It made me feel useful. One afternoon, I was checking one of my students' homework when the doorbell rang. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting anyone. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Tyler. My heart stopped. He was alone, without Vanessa. His hair was messy. He had dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled. He looked tired, defeated. I put my hand on the doorknob. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to open it. Another part wanted to ignore him and leave him out there. I took a deep breath and opened the door. We looked each other in the eyes. Neither said anything for a few seconds that felt eternal. Finally, Tyler spoke. "Hi, Mom." His voice sounded hoarse, as if he had cried a lot. "Hi, Tyler. Can I come in? Just a moment, please." I hesitated, but finally stepped aside. "Come in." He entered slowly, as if afraid I would change my mind. He stood in the living room looking around. His eyes stopped on the photos on the wall, on his father's chair, on his grandmother's clock. "The house looks good," he said. "Thank you." There was an awkward silence. "Sit down," I told him. He sat on the edge of the couch, hands between his knees. I sat at the other end, keeping distance. "How have you been?" he asked. "Fine. And you?" He let out a bitter laugh. "Not very well, to be honest." I said nothing. I waited. "Mom, I came to apologize." "Did you or Vanessa send you?" He looked at me surprised. "Me? Vanessa doesn't know I'm here. In fact, she'd be very angry if she knew." "Why?" "Because she says you're the bad guy, that you took everything from us, that we're the victims." "And what do you say?" Tyler lowered his gaze. "I say she's wrong. I say that what we did to you was horrible. I say that I was a bad son." His voice cracked on the last words. "Why come now, Tyler? What changed?" He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Everything changed. Since we left here, nothing has gone right. The apartment where we live is terrible, small, damp, roaches. Vanessa quit her job, and now I'm the only one working. We barely have enough to eat, and she spends all day complaining about everything, about me, about the apartment, about life. "And that made you come?" "No, what made me come was talking to Vanessa's mom." I was surprised. "You talked to Doris?" Yes, she visited us last week and she confronted Vanessa. She told her she had found the estimate for the house. She asked her how long she had been planning to take your property. And Mom, I didn't know. What didn't you know? That Vanessa had planned everything for over a year. That she had investigated how much your house was worth. That she had talked to lawyers about how we could keep the property. That she had calculated down to the last dollar what we could get from the sale. Tears ran down his face. I thought she just wanted you to be protected, that if something happened to you, we could handle everything. But it wasn't that. She wanted you to sign that power of attorney to take everything while you were still alive. And I was so stupid I believed her. Tyler, you were there when she threatened me. You heard what she said, and you did nothing. I know, he said with a choked voice. I know, and I hate myself for it. Every night I lie down thinking about that moment, about your face when I told you to sign or leave, about how you walked out of your own house with a suitcase in hand, and I wonder how I could do that to my own mother. He covered his face with his hands and wept, a deep, gut-wrenching cry. And despite everything, I felt my heart soften, but it wasn't enough. Tyler, I said firmly, I understand you are regretful. I understand Vanessa manipulated you, but you are an adult. You made decisions, and those decisions hurt me in a way you can't imagine. I know. No, you don't know. You don't know what it feels like for your own son, whom you raised alone after his father died, to look you in the eye and tell you to leave your own house. You don't know what it feels like to lose your family in a single night. You don't know the pain I carry in my chest since that day. He looked up. His eyes were red, swollen. You're right. I don't know. But I want to understand. I want you to give me a chance to repair what I broke. How? How are you going to fix this, Tyler? I don't know, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to do whatever is necessary. Just don't shut the door on me completely. Please. I stayed quiet, processing everything I had just heard. Part of me wanted to hug him, tell him everything was forgiven, that we could start over. But another part, the part that had suffered, the part that had cried entire nights, that part told me to be cautious. Tyler, I can't give you an answer now. I need time. I need to process all this. I understand. And I need you to understand something. Even if someday you forgive me, things are never going to go back to how they were before. You lost trust in me, and regaining trust takes time. A lot of time. I know. And what about Vanessa? Are you still with her? Tyler hesitated. Yes, for now. But things aren't good between us. Since her mom confronted her, she's different, more aggressive, more bitter. I don't know if I want to stay with her. That is a decision only you can make. He nodded. He got up from the couch. Thanks for listening to me, Mom. I know I don't deserve even that, but it means a lot to me. Tyler, I said, if you really want to fix this, then prove it. Not with words, with actions. Prove you changed, that you learned, that you would never do something like this to me again. I will, I promise you. He walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned around. I love you, Mom. I know I have no right to say it after everything that happened, but it's true. I've always loved you, and I regret hurting you so much. I didn't answer. I just nodded. He left and closed the door behind him. I stood in the living room, staring at the closed door. My mind was chaos of emotions. Relief, sadness, hope, fear. Had I done right by listening to him? Should I have shut the door? Was his regret genuine, or was he just desperate? I had no answers, only questions. But there was something I did know. I wasn't going to make hasty decisions. I wasn't going to forgive just because he cried. I wasn't going to forget just because he apologized. If Tyler wanted my forgiveness, he would have to earn it. And that, if it happened, would take a long time. After Tyler left, I sat in the living room for hours. The clock struck 8 at night when I finally reacted. I hadn't eaten dinner. I hadn't done anything but think. Think about his words, his tears, whether they were real or just desperation. I called Linda. I needed to talk to someone who understood me. Evelyn, what happened? Your voice sounds weird. Tyler came over. There was silence on the other end. To your house? Yes, a few hours ago. He came alone.
And what did he want?
To apologize, to tell me he was sorry, that Vanessa had manipulated him, that he didn't know she had planned everything for over a year. And did you believe him? That question hit me. I don't know, Linda. Part of me wants to believe him. He's my son. But another part tells me to be careful, not to trust so fast. Listen to your gut, Linda said firmly. If something tells you to be careful, then be careful. True regret is shown with time and actions, not just with tears and pretty words. That was exactly what I told him, that if he wanted my forgiveness, he would have to earn it. Good job. Now wait. Wait and see what he does. If he really changed, you'll see it. And if not, you'll see that too. She was right, as always. Thanks, Linda. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd be fine anyway because you're stronger than you think. That night, I slept restlessly. I dreamed of Tyler as a child, of Robert, of the house when it was full of laughter and not threats. I woke up early with a strange feeling in my chest, as if something was about to happen. And I wasn't wrong. At 9 a.m, the doorbell rang. I thought it might be Tyler again, but when I opened the door, I found someone I didn't expect. It was Vanessa. But it wasn't the Vanessa I knew. It wasn't the perfectly groomed woman with her impeccable hair and calculated smile. This Vanessa had greasy hair tied in a messy ponytail, deep dark circles, wrinkled clothes, and an expression on her face I couldn't immediately identify. Was it rage? Desperation? Both? "What are you doing here?" I asked without moving from the doorway. "I need to talk to you." "We have nothing to talk about." "Please," she said, and her voice sounded different, less sure, less arrogant. "Just 5 minutes, that's all I ask." I hesitated. Every instinct in my body told me to shut the door, not to give her even a second of my time. But curiosity won. 5 minutes, and you stay out there. Vanessa nodded. She stood on the porch, hands clasped in front of her. "Tyler came to see you yesterday." "Yes, he told me last night. He came home and confessed he had come to apologize to you." "And that bothered you?" She pressed her lips together. "Yes, it bothered me a lot, because I had told him not to do it, that you didn't deserve an apology, that we were the ones who deserved an apology from you. And you come to tell me that I owe you an apology?" "No," she said, and her voice cracked. "I come to tell you that I was wrong." I was speechless. What? Vanessa took a deep breath as if the next words cost her life. "I was wrong about everything, about how I treated you, about what I planned, about the way I manipulated Tyler to be on my side." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Why are you telling me this now?" She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. "Because my life fell apart, completely. Since we left this house, everything has gone from bad to worse. I lost my job. The apartment where we live is horrible. Tyler works all day, and I stay alone, thinking about how I ruined everything. And my mom..." She stopped. Her shoulders shook. "My mom told me I embarrassed her. She told me she didn't recognize the woman I had become. And she's right. I wasn't like this, Evelyn. I wasn't this greedy and cruel person." "Then why did you do it?" Vanessa closed her eyes. "Because I was afraid of having nothing, of always depending on others. I grew up poor, Evelyn, dirt poor, in a house with leaks, no hot water, eating beans every day. And when I met Tyler, when I saw this house, I thought, this is my chance. This is my way out. So you saw me as an opportunity, not as a person." "Yes," she admitted, and tears flowed freely down her face. "And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You have no idea how much I regret it." "Do you regret hurting me? Or do you regret that your plan didn't work?" The question hit her like a slap. "I regret both things. But above all, I regret losing myself along the way, sacrificing my humanity for money, for a house, for material things that in the end mean nothing." We stood in silence, me processing her words, her waiting for my response. Vanessa, I don't know what you expect me to say. I don't expect anything, just needed you to know that I regret it, that if I could turn back time, I would do everything differently. But you can't turn back time. I know. And even if you regret it, that doesn't erase what you did. I know, she repeated, voice lower. So what do you want from me? She looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen. Nothing. I don't want anything. I just came to tell you the truth, because I owed it to myself, and I owed it to you. I nodded slowly. Okay, thank you for coming. Vanessa turned to leave, but stopped. Evelyn? Yes? Tyler loves you. Really. I know what he did was horrible. I know he hurt you. But he loves you. And he is destroyed inside. If someday you can forgive him, please, do it. Not for me, for him. I didn't answer. I just closed the door. I stood in the foyer trying to process what had just happened. Vanessa had come to apologize, to admit she was wrong. Was it genuine, or was it another manipulation? The snake sheds its skin, but is it still a snake? I didn't know, and maybe I never would. What I did know was that something had changed. Something in the universe had shifted. The following days were strangely quiet. Neither Tyler nor Vanessa came looking for me again. I received no calls, no messages. It was like they had disappeared again. But this time the silence didn't bother me. It was a peaceful silence. 2 weeks later, I was at the market buying vegetables when I heard a familiar voice. Evelyn? I turned and saw Elena, a neighbor I had been friends with years ago, before Vanessa came into my life and I isolated myself from everyone. Elena, how are you? We hugged. She smelled of gardenia perfume, as always. Good, good, and you? It's been so long since I've seen you. I heard that your son and his wife left your house. Yes, they left. Elena looked at me with understanding. Rose told me a little, not everything, just that you had problems with them. Problems is an understatement, I said with a bitter smile. I imagine. You know, I went through something similar many years ago with my brother. He tried to take the house I inherited from my parents. It was a horrible legal battle. And what happened? I won, but I lost my brother in the process. We didn't speak for 10 years. 10 years? Yes. But eventually he came back. He apologized. And although our relationship was never the same, we found a way to be at peace. What do you think that will happen to me? Elena took my hand. I don't know, Evelyn. Every story is different. But what I do know is that you did the right thing by defending yourself. And that, no matter what happens next, is the most important thing. Her words gave me comfort. A month passed. October arrived with its cool afternoons and cold nights. The leaves of the maple tree began to fall, covering the garden with a golden carpet. I continued with my tutoring. My students filled me with joy. They were innocent, pure. They had no hidden agendas or malicious intentions. They just wanted to learn. One afternoon, while checking math exercises, my phone rang. It was Doris, Vanessa's mother. Mrs. Evelyn? Yes, Doris? How are you? I'm not very well. I need to tell you something. Her voice sounded worried. What happened? It's about Vanessa and Tyler. They separated. My heart skipped a beat. They separated? Yes, a week ago. Tyler left the apartment. He said he couldn't take it anymore, that he needed space to think, to decide what to do with his life. And where is he now? He's living with a friend, a coworker. And Evelyn, he's in a bad way. My daughter told me he cries every night, that he doesn't sleep, that he barely eats. I felt a pang in my chest. And why are you telling me this? Because I think he needs his mother. I know what he did was terrible. I know you have every right not to want anything to do with him. But I think he's hitting rock bottom. And sometimes, when we hit rock bottom, we need someone to extend a hand. Doris, I don't know if I can be that person for him right now. I'm still healing. It still hurts. I understand. I just wanted you to know. We hung up and I stared at the phone. Tyler had separated from Vanessa. He was living with a friend. He was destroyed. Part of me felt sadness for him. He was my son. I couldn't simply turn off the love I felt for him. But another part reminded me of everything that had happened. The pain, the humiliation, the betrayal. I didn't know what to do. That night, before sleeping, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I took out the photo of Tyler when he was 5, the one I kept in my nightstand drawer. I looked at it for a long time. His toothless smile, his eyes full of innocence, his pure happiness. "Where did you go, my boy?" I whispered. "Where did that little one go who loved me unconditionally?" There was no answer, just the silence of the night. I put the photo away and turned off the light. And in the darkness, I made a decision. I wasn't going to seek out Tyler. I wasn't going to run to save him, because he was an adult, and adults have to face the consequences of their actions. But if he came back, if he knocked on my door, if he proved with actions and not just words that he had changed, then I would be willing to listen. Not to forget, not to go back to how we were before, but to give him a chance to build something new, something based on respect, honesty, and clear boundaries. Because at the end of the day, even though Tyler had hurt me, he was still my son, and a mother's love, although wounded, does not disappear completely. It just waits, patiently, for the person we love to decide to be worthy of that love. 2 more weeks passed. November arrived with its gray sky and cold mornings. The holidays were approaching. Thanksgiving was coming. I had set up my mantle with photos for Robert, for my parents, for everyone who was no longer here. I talked to them. I told them everything that had happened. I asked for wisdom, strength, patience. And I felt that they heard me from wherever they were. One Friday afternoon, I was watering the plants in the front yard when I heard someone knocking on the front door. I put down the hose and walked to the entrance. I looked through the peephole. It was Tyler, but he wasn't alone. By his side was an older man, about 60, with a briefcase in hand. He wore a suit, looked professional. I opened the door with caution. "Mom," Tyler said. His voice sounded shaky. "This is Dr. Miller. He is my therapist. I asked him to come with me because I need you to hear something important. And I want you to know I'm not coming alone, that I'm working on myself, that I'm doing things right this time." I looked at Dr. Miller. He smiled kindly. "Mrs. Evelyn, good afternoon. Tyler has told me a lot about you and everything that happened. He asked me to accompany him today because he wants to have an important conversation with you, a healing conversation, and he thought my presence could help both of you feel safer." I looked at Tyler. His eyes were clean, clear, without that fog of confusion they had last time. "Can I come in, Mom?" he asked. "Please." I took a deep breath and opened the door completely. Tyler and Dr. Miller entered the house. I guided them to the living room. The therapist sat in an armchair. Tyler and I sat on opposite ends of the sofa, maintaining distance. The initial silence was awkward, but Dr. Miller broke it with a gentle voice. "Mrs. Evelyn, first of all, thank you for receiving us. I know this isn't easy for you, and I want you to know my presence here is not to judge you or pressure you. I am only here to facilitate a conversation, which I hope can be healing for both." I nodded without saying anything. The doctor looked at Tyler. "Tyler, do you want to start?" My son took a deep breath. He looked nervous. His hands shook slightly. "Mom, for the last few weeks I've been going to therapy, twice a week. At first, I didn't want to go. I thought I didn't need it. But my friend Carlos, the one who let me stay at his place, told me if I didn't seek help, I was going to end up destroying myself completely." He paused. He wiped his eyes. "In the sessions, doctor, Miller has helped me understand many things about me, about why I allowed Vanessa to manipulate me, about why I didn't defend you when I should have." "And what did you understand?" I asked with a soft voice. Tyler looked me directly in the eyes. "I understood that after Dad died, I felt lost. I was 22. I was so young. And suddenly the man who guided me, who taught me, wasn't there anymore. And you were so strong, Mom. So strong I thought you didn't need me, that you could handle everything alone. Tyler, I always needed you. I know now, but back then I didn't see it that way. And when I met Vanessa, she made me feel needed, important, like I was the hero who was going to save her from her difficult life. And I liked that feeling. I liked being important to someone. Dr. Miller intervened. Tyler has been working on understanding that his need to feel needed made him vulnerable to manipulation. Vanessa saw that vulnerability and exploited it. But that doesn't excuse it, Tyler said quickly. It doesn't excuse that I failed you, that I didn't defend you, that I allowed them to kick you out of your own house. Tears began to run down his face again. Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did is unforgivable. But I need you to know I regret it with every fiber of my being. Every day I wake up and think about that moment, about your face when I looked at you and told you to sign or leave. And I hate myself. I hate myself so much. Tyler, I don't want you to hate yourself, I said, and my own voice cracked. I want you to learn, to grow, to become the man your father would have wanted you to be. I'm trying. I swear to you, I'm trying. Dr. Miller spoke again. Evelyn, may I ask how you feel right now? I took a deep breath. I processed the question. I feel confused, sad, relieved that Tyler is seeking help. But I also have fear. Fear of what? Fear of trusting again and getting hurt again. Fear of forgiving too fast. Fear that this is temporary and in a few months, everything will go back to how it was before. Tyler shook his head quickly. It won't be like before, Mom. Vanessa and I separated definitively. I initiated divorce proceedings last week. That surprised me. Divorce? Yes. I can't continue with her. Not after everything I discovered. Not after all the lies. Not after seeing how she manipulated every aspect of our relationship. Dr. Miller helped me see that marriage was toxic, that it was destroying me. And how do you feel with that decision? Sad, confused, but also relieved. Like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. Like finally I can breathe. Dr. Miller nodded. Divorce is never easy. But sometimes it is necessary to heal and grow. And where are you going to live? I asked. For now, I'm still with Carlos. He has a small apartment, but he let me stay in his living room. I'm saving to rent something of my own, something simple. I don't need a big house anymore. I just need a place where I can rebuild my life. There was a long silence. I processed all the information. Tyler waited for my answer. Tyler, I appreciate you coming, that you brought Dr. Miller, that you are doing the therapy work. All that tells me you are taking this seriously. I am, Mom, I promise. But, I continued, I need you to understand that my forgiveness is not going to be immediate. I can't simply forget what happened just because you are in therapy. The pain I feel is deep, and healing takes time. I understand. And I need you to know that our relationship is never going to go back to how it was before. Because before, I trusted you blindly, and that trust broke. Rebuilding it is going to take years, maybe a lifetime. Tyler nodded, crying. I accept everything you are telling me. Just don't shut the door on me completely. Let me prove to you I can change, that I can be the son you deserve. I looked at Dr. Miller. What do you think? He leaned back in his seat, thoughtful. Evelyn, my professional opinion is that Tyler is doing genuine work of introspection and growth. I have worked with many patients throughout my career, and I can tell you the level of commitment he is showing is real. But I also understand perfectly your caution. You have every right to protect yourself, to set boundaries, to take the time you need. Thank you, I said. I got up and walked to the window. I looked at the garden, the maple tree, the flowers I had planted years ago. Everything was still there, growing, living, despite the storms. I turned to Tyler. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you a chance, but with conditions. Tyler got up immediately. Whatever they are, Mom, whatever. First, you are going to continue with your therapy, not just a few weeks, months, years if necessary, until Dr. Miller considers you have worked through your issues. I accept. Second, we are not going to have a close relationship immediately. We are going to start slow. A call a week, maybe a coffee a month. Small steps, no rushing. I accept. Third, if at any moment I feel you are falling into the same patterns, if you disrespect me again or prioritize someone else over my well-being, this opportunity ends forever. Understood? Understood. And fourth, the will stays as it is, in your Aunt Linda's name. If someday, after years, you prove you really changed, then we can talk about modifying it. But for now, it is my way of protecting myself. Tyler hesitated a moment, then nodded. I accept. I understand why you do it, and I don't blame you. I approached him. We stood face to face. I looked him in the eyes, the same eyes Robert had, the same eyes of the boy he had been. Tyler, I love you. I will always love you because you are my son. But love doesn't mean allowing myself to be hurt. Love also means setting boundaries, protecting myself, demanding respect. I know, Mom, and I respect you for that. I respect you more now than ever. I extended my hand. He took it, and we shook hands. Not a hug, I wasn't ready for that yet, but a handshake, an agreement, a pact. Thank you for giving me this chance, he said with a broken voice. Don't waste it. I won't, I promise. Dr. Miller stood up. Mrs. Evelyn, I think this conversation was very productive, and I would like to suggest something if you allow me. Would you consider coming to a family therapy session? Just one, to be able to work on some topics in a more structured environment. You don't have to commit to more, just one session to see how you feel. I thought about it for a moment. Okay, one session. I'll see how I feel. Perfect. I'll give you my card. You can call me when you're ready. He gave me his card. Tyler and he prepared to leave. Before going out, Tyler turned one last time. Mom, there's something else I want to tell you. What? Dad would be proud of you, of how you defended yourself, of how you set boundaries, of your strength. I didn't see it before, but now I see it, and I admire your strength so much. His words broke my heart in the best possible way. Thank you, Tyler. That means a lot to me. They left. I closed the door and stood in the foyer. Something had changed. I wasn't sure exactly what, but something in the air felt different, lighter, more hopeful. I called Linda immediately. Evelyn? What happened? Tyler came over. With his therapist. With his therapist? Yes, he's going to therapy. He separated from Vanessa, initiated the divorce, and came to apologize, for real this time. And what did you tell him? I gave him a chance, but with conditions, with clear boundaries. Linda sighed with relief. I'm glad, sister. I'm very glad. But I'm also glad you set boundaries. That is the most important thing. I know, and the will stays as it is, in your name. Evelyn, if Tyler changes, if he proves he really grew, then you can modify it. You don't have to leave it like that for me. I know, but for now it gives me peace to know it's like that if something happens to me, you will be okay, and that Tyler had to face the consequences of his actions. Okay, I accept. That night I slept better than I had slept in months. I dreamed of Robert. We were sitting in the garden under the maple tree. He took my hand and told me everything was going to be okay, that I had done the right thing, that he was proud. I woke up with tears in my eyes, but they were tears of peace, not sadness. The following months were a slow but constant process. Tyler called me every week as we had agreed. The first calls were awkward, short, full of silences, but little by little the conversations became easier. He told me about his work, about his therapy, about how he was rebuilding his life. I told him about my students, about my days, about the small joys of living alone and in peace. 2 months after our conversation with the therapist, I agreed to have coffee with him. We met at a neutral coffee shop, not at my house. I still wasn't ready for that. Tyler looked different. He had lost weight, but looked healthier. His eyes had a clarity I hadn't seen in years. How are you, Mom? Good. And you? Better. Every day a little better. We drank our coffee and talked about simple things, the weather, the news, good memories from the past. We didn't mention Vanessa. We didn't mention the night of the ultimatum. We just talked about the present, and that was good. 3 months later, in February, I went to a family therapy session with Tyler and Dr. Miller. It was hard. I cried a lot. Tyler too. But it was necessary. We talked about everything, about the pain, the betrayal, about how to rebuild a relationship from zero, about how I could trust again without feeling naive. Dr. Miller gave us tools. He taught us to communicate better, to set healthy boundaries, to recognize when something didn't feel right. It was one of the hardest conversations of my life, but also one of the most healing. A year passed, a full year since the night of the ultimatum, since Tyler and Vanessa threatened me, since I had to leave my own house with a suitcase in hand. A year in which everything changed. Tyler was still in therapy. He had rented his own apartment, small but dignified. He invited me to visit, and I accepted. When I entered, I saw he had put a photo in the living room. It was of the three of us, Robert, him as a boy, and me. We were in the garden of my house, smiling. "That photo reminds me where I come from," Tyler said. "Reminds me who I want to be." We sat and had dinner together, pot roast that he had prepared himself. It wasn't perfect, but it was made with love. "Remember when you taught me to make this?" I asked. "Of course I do. I was like 12. You said every man should know how to cook so he doesn't depend on anyone. Dad always said the same thing." We smiled. It was a good memory. Pure. After dinner, Tyler looked at me seriously. "Mom, there's something I want to give you." He took an envelope out of the table drawer. "What is this?" "Open it." I opened it carefully. Inside was a check for $10,000. "Tyler, what is this?" "It's money I've been saving. I know I can never pay back everything I took from you, not just the money, but the peace, the tranquility, the years of pain. But this is a start. I want you to use it for something that makes you happy, a trip, remodeling the house, whatever you want." I looked at the check. Then I looked at him. "Tyler, I don't need your money." "I know, but I need to give it to you. I need to prove to you I'm taking responsibility for my actions, that I don't just say I'm sorry, but I also do something about it." There were tears in my eyes. "Okay, I accept. Thank you." We hugged. For the first time in over a year, we hugged. And it felt good. It felt real. That night, while driving back to my house, I thought about everything that had happened, about the pain, about the betrayal, about the tears, about the sleepless nights. But I also thought about the strength I found, about the dignity I defended, about the boundaries I set. I thought about how life has a strange way of doing justice, not always in a fast or dramatic way. Sometimes justice arrives slowly, in the form of natural consequences, of learned lessons, of people who hit rock bottom and decide to change. Vanessa had lost everything: her marriage, her credibility, the relationship with her own mother. And as I found out later, she had to move back in with her parents in a humble house, working at a supermarket to survive. I felt no joy for her suffering, just a quiet sadness for a person who had chosen wrong. Tyler, on the other hand, had hit rock bottom, but had decided to climb. He had sought help. He had done the hard work of looking in the mirror and accepting his mistakes. And slowly, very slowly, he was rebuilding his life. And I had recovered my peace, my house, my dignity. I had learned that love without respect isn't love, that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, that boundaries are acts of self-love. I arrived at my house and parked the car. I looked at the facade. My house. The one Robert and I bought 36 years ago. The one I defended with tooth and nail. I entered and turned on the lights. Everything was in its place. Clean. Orderly. At peace. I made myself a chamomile tea and sat in Robert's chair. I looked at the photos on the wall. My whole life was there, and I felt gratitude. Gratitude for having survived, for having fought, for having defended myself. Gratitude for Linda, who was always there. For Rose, my neighbor, who gave me hope. For Attorney Davis, who helped me legally. For Dr. Miller, who helped my son find himself. And gratitude for Robert, who, even though he was no longer here physically, continued guiding me from wherever he was. I drank my tea slowly. Outside, I heard the sound of crickets, the distant bark of a dog, life continuing its normal course. I thought about all the women passing through something similar right now, women being manipulated by their own children, by their in-laws, by people they trusted. I wanted to tell them, defend your dignity, set boundaries, and don't let anyone, not even your own family, take what belongs to you. Because self-respect isn't selfishness, it's survival. True love will never ask you to erase yourself. I finished my tea and walked up the stairs to sleep in my own bed, in my own peace. Before closing my eyes, I whispered a thank you to the universe for giving me the strength to stand tall when I was meant to fall. This story might be fiction, but the scars and the lessons are real for so many of us. The true wealth in life isn't property or money. It's the peace you feel when your head hits the pillow, knowing that no matter what, you are the captain of your own soul.